Hey everyone, welcome to State of the Industry. I'm Chris, co-founder at The Den, and I'm here with my two resident blockchain experts. We've got Svet and Jason.
Hi everybody.
And today we're hopping into the most recent topics that we figure you guys want to be up to date with. State of the Industry, we're all about being agnostic, diving into the facts, and really making sure that you're as informed as possible about the blockchain industry so that you can go out and make whatever you want to do happen. So without further ado, let's hop straight into it. All right. Now this one is going to be pretty interesting. We're looking at coin market cap, trading, and what people are actually reporting versus actuality versus expectations. So trading analytics platform, the TAI, measured the volume per visit of 100 popular exchanges and averaged the resulting figure to Coinbase Pro, Gemini, Poloniex, Binance, and Kraken as the top 5 kind of trusted, the biggest exchanges. Their results supposedly said that almost 90% of cryptocurrency exchanges are reporting trade volumes that might be incorrect. Svet, I know you dove a little deeper into the data and you had some interesting insights. So why don't you tell us what you found?
Well, I'm not sure it was so interesting, but what I did, I opened the table, the spreadsheet which that company based their report on. So what I found is it is not 90% of doubtful exchanges they themselves found, but only about 48%, which makes a big difference, right? There is 90% Of course, if we still have 48% of exchanges where there's what trading volumes can be, questioned, it's not still good, but it's not 90. It's not drama. Well. It's still drama. Yes, it's not about that, but probably we have such a depth of drama in our market that even if you have it, we still have a drama. So I don't even know what point I'm making. I'm just saying that we have like two dramas. First drama that we have 48%, and second drama that all of our agencies, they're reporting. I don't really know how they're reporting that. But that's my point. My point is that we have to be more careful, even if somebody tells you or gives you some numbers. You have to go deeper and look at those numbers. It's not so difficult, actually.
Yeah, I mean, do your own research.
I had some points on this one. One is that the numbers they were talking about from the article I read was that if they used, those 5 as a baseline and applied the trade volume of those 5 to the top, I think it was top 100 exchanges listed on CoinMarketCap, that it would average like $2.1 billion in daily trading volume.
As the actual
number, as is what they would think the trade volume should be daily.
Yeah.
But from what we see on CoinMarketCap, it's actually closer to $15.7 million. I mean, so the difference in those numbers is huge.
Yeah.
So even if their methodology is messed up, it is showing that CoinMarketCap in the reporting from the exchanges is probably way off. And that brings me to another topic, which, for people that are new to this, they might not understand how this all works. But CoinMarketCap's a big game for exchanges. If you have the highest volume, you're going to list at the top for any said token that somebody's researching to buy into. So exchanges inflate their volume to get their numbers up so that it attracts more visitors and more viewers to come to their exchange
to
spend more money. Yes, to get as many fees as possible off people doing trades. So it is a game. I don't think anybody, it wasn't surprising to me that the report said, 87% of the volume is faked.
Inflated.
And Svet's saying maybe it's 48 to 50%. The point is it's not correct. It's never been, in my opinion, and CoinMarketCap isn't necessarily a great place to get information on trade volume. Yeah. But if you want to know where something is traded and exchanged, it's a good resource for that.
So doesn't that point to the fact that exchanges, for the most part, are still very centralized entities? They're they have their own agenda, and most part, their businesses, they want to make money. They have their own coins, Binance coin or whatever it is. So naturally, they are incentivized to, do what is going to draw the most people towards them. And if having the largest market cap, on coin market cap, is what brings most of your customers in, and there's not really any repercussions for inflating your numbers, or someone who's actually checking it, what's going to stop them from doing that?
Yeah. That's actually a very good point, because what I'm arguing for is to have some kind of, first of all, public opinion, and second, the expert opinion, because otherwise we're going to be continuing throwing dirt at each other, and it won't help anybody, right? So what do we really want? What do we want? We want more people coming to our space.
True.
If we continue to blame each other for non-existing sins, it won't gonna help, right? So we have to be more constructive, and if we produce such types of reports, we both have to make sure that this report is correct. And in the process of making this reports correct, we actually improve our industry. Maybe if we have like a specialized analytical agencies which start to be more and more professional, start to put more and more efforts in what they're doing, and more importantly, disclosing not only the results of their finding, but also how they find it.
Their
right?
methodology.
So methodologies, and then giving the possibility for other people questioning this before issuing this report. So basically, it's not rocket science, because I'm sorry to kind of mentioning that, but in the how we call it, regular or traditional financial sectors, they already have such a type of institutions. And the fact that all of us, we do not agree with most of what financial industry doing, like traditional, it doesn't mean that we cannot take something which is working there.
Yeah.
I think that that system of check and balances, I wouldn't say it's 100% operational, but
it's there.
It's there.
Yeah,
I mean,
on a legal standpoint, if we're trading securities and traditional assets, there is a whole list of rules that are set forth by the exchange on how they have to report these types of things.
Yeah.
And we don't have that in crypto. Maybe we should. I'm not going to suggest that we should, but as people start trading securities, it's going to have to be there. So will this change in the future? Most definitely, yes.
Yeah.
But how it is right now, those requirements aren't there, so people are doing whatever they want.
Yeah, I see it as a necessary evil. And this also leads into the growth increased use of decentralized exchanges, right? With a decentralized exchange, you can basically program in how these things are reported. I can almost not think of a situation where a decentralized exchange would not be able to do that.
Yeah, if everybody has the addresses, know what's going in and what's going out, then you know exactly what's happening. But at the same time, it can still be faked to an extent if you're trading with yourself or something like that.
But I mean, it's still technically wrong, right?
So when I'm thinking about that, let's imagine that all of us arrived in inhabited island, and then we basically rebuild our society based on new decentralized principle, right? So, but by the end of the day, we're still building some type of society, right? So, so now we build some type of the system. It's going to be the decentralized system, but doesn't necessarily mean that all of the institutions which we inherited from the old bad society will be completely eliminated from the new under the new circumstances. I'm not sure, right? Maybe in a decentralized when we have a decentralized exchanges, the necessity of having independent controlling is not a good word, auditing agencies. We will have to have more of them. But of course, they have to be independent. We shouldn't recreate something like a Big Four, Big Six, which just monstrosities, which are completely, mess thing up. I've worked in these organizations. I know what I'm talking about.
It's like PTSD, bringing back that memory.
But and to that point, I mean, the public nodes for publicly traded and fully decentralized, the data's all there. It's just a matter of going through it and having smart people go through it and put it all together.
Exactly, yes. Let's have more smart people.
It's already there. The data's already there. It's just a matter of make sure it's not completely manipulated where people are trading with themselves or with their group over and over to inflate numbers.
So maybe that's the next step for this TIE report, or anyone else who's doing more in-depth analysis of exchanges, is to do the actual blockchain analysis and give the report. these addresses are known, to be utilized by this company or this exchange, report the actual volume. I'm sure some people have already done that, but that's the next step in my opinion. So cool. All right, let's head on to the next one. Unless you had a final point.
Nope.
Cool. All right. Okay, so now we're shifting over to Washington, our favorite place in the blockchain.
Everybody loves Washington.
Just as much as Washington loves us. All right, so the number of lobbies working on blockchain technology issues in DC tripled in 2018. This was reported by Politico on March 18th. And one of the lobbyists commented, part of lobbying on blockchain issues is about positioning clients in front of members of Congress and securing attention for a niche issue. The companies among these lobbyists include Medici Ventures, Overstock.com, and Ripple. So let me know what you guys think about this one. I have some opinions on this for sure.
So now your turn.
My turn? Okay. Well, I know we were talking last week a little bit, just with us three, about Glassdoor. They had a Glassdoor report that I can't remember which Cointelegraph or somebody posted an article about how the increase in engineers and the need for blockchain engineering jobs.
It was data taken from the Glassdoor site.
Yeah. And Glassdoor had done some work on that, and showed that the engineering was up. I think it was 517% was the number we were talking about. So, in my point, the lobbyists are obviously behind if they're only growing at a 300% rate. But it's interesting. It's interesting that we know how this game works as well. A company comes around Overstock. They have a vested interest, obviously, making sure that they get as many moats and agreements in place that they can continue to do business as they want to do business without getting into trouble or getting fined for things that they want to do.
Yeah.
They obviously have the money. I know I bought some Egyptian sheets from them when they started doing high thread count sheets, just like most of the people that had.
What's your language?
I did
It's international translation.
Egyptian sheets, high thread count. I think it was the number one item purchased with Bitcoin, and when Overstock really started taking Bitcoin, and I bought that, and just like everybody else did, apparently.
That's hilarious.
So they obviously have some incentive to build moats and make sure that they're protecting
their
the game.
interests.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Svet?
It's obvious we have now some very positive shift, right? We have like a tripled number of our representatives in Washington, but not really, of course, because I don't think that anybody there represent our interest. I mean, decentralized or people from the bottom of the society. So there's big corporation, they're going to be lobbying for their own interests, which is obvious. However, it may come some good from that. At least our legislatures hopefully will take more of their time and maybe discuss some of our problems, and in the process of this discussion become more smarter and more educated. Not sure about that, but that's positive intake. What I have about this. At the same time, I think we still have to be very careful of the outcome of such efforts, because it usually come to some very limited legislation favoring very specific industries. I mean, like not our industry, but some industry. Imagine JP Morgan start to lobbying GPM coin and saying our coin is real decentralized coin. That's your coin, just funny, I don't know, consensus or something. That's not a decentralized. Our coin is decentralized, right? And if they put it in law, it's not good, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I see this as, there's definitely some positives to it. There's some potential issues, kind of like you were talking about. But the main positive that I see, and I think this is a trend with, the topics that I even have for today, is that politicians, it looks like, are getting bombarded more and more with blockchain issues, with blockchain ideas, which is going to force them to do some homework, to learn a bit more about what's actually happening, so that they're informed enough to actually make the decisions that we would hope that they're able to make. right? We've seen in the past, like 2017, even earlier, regulators were completely confused. They were getting like knocked over the head with all these different issues that they had no basis of understanding for the technology or for the cryptocurrency or what to even do with it. So this situation now, we have larger companies who are kind of normalizing blockchain tech as another thing that they're taking to the legislators, going through the same motions that people went through with, I'm sure, all of the previous steps of technology that had to be regulated, all the different changes in, just different industries. So they're growing. They're going to make some changes, and so that's one of the positive things I see about it.
So you expect next thing there's legislatures will do, they will call Dan and ask, can we take a course in Solidity?
I would have hoped that they did that, 2 years ago.
Now, too late.
Better late than never is absolutely the case.
Well,
but
I'm not so optimistic. I'm sorry.
I had no other point that I wanted to make was that it's very possible that the companies who are kind of getting engaging with the politics right now are not going to end up in the situation that Facebook was in, with Facebook and Google getting interviewed in Congress with this complete disconnect of, how does Facebook have my information? Where does it go? When this is stuff that most people should be versed in how that works, or the basics of how Google, they offer products for free in order to take your information. Like, that's just well understood by, I would hope, a decent amount of people. But obviously legislators were behind in that information. So,
well, if legislators are still behind in Facebook terms.
Well, yeah, that's where it's like,
imagine what we have.
I'm hoping that they're gonna they're gonna get these issues in front of their eyes. They're gonna be learning about it to the point where they're not gonna be misinformed. That's all we can really hope for right now from legislators.
I think it kind of ties to the last point a little bit, though, with the last topic, which is, I know Overstock in particular has been talking about doing an exchange for a while, and again, it ties back to, hey, they're a traditional company. Yeah. They can't just go Wild West with an exchange and expect not to get in trouble. They've got something on the line to lose. So, if it takes a little bit of lobbying to get them to be able to do an exchange properly, it might be completely related to that. So,
Cool. All right, the next topic.
Well, yeah, let's move.
All right. Let's see. All right, now, still on the topic of legislation, moving over to the SEC. So, Coin Center claims that they've received a response from SEC boss Jay Clayton, which basically states that Clayton kind of sort of agrees with Director Hinman's June 2018 speech point that Ethereum is not a security. That was obviously the large speech that everyone in the blockchain space was excited about, right? And I quote, "And putting aside that the fundraising that accompanied the creation of Ether, based on my understanding of the present state of Ether, the Ethereum network and its decentralized structure currently offers and sales of Ether are not securities transactions." Okay, so what do you guys think about this development?
Well, I think it creates more confusion than it actually solves.
Okay.
I guess everybody can interpret it as he or she wish now. So from one point of view, we have obvious change of the tone, because if you remember last year, it was I would put it like a non-civilized discussion between there's regulatory authorities and our community. Now we're shifting to the epoch where there's people start to exchange letters and putting their argument in more or less comprehensive, literary or legal form. From my point of view, it's not comprehensive because as soon as I can see, they don't actually say anything new. So their position stays the same. Although, of course, many news medias which I've seen they tend to report about that event as, okay, we have a breakthrough, we have now Ethereum become legal. I don't think so. It's more like there is some maybe political discussions or maybe even intrigue going in the between SEC and maybe lobbyists. 30 lobbyists, that's a force you have to count with, right? They pay money.
So they have to think about it.
So they have to take that into account. Maybe because of that, maybe because really people in SEC started to understand that their straightforward approach doesn't work so well as they expected. Maybe there are some consultants they hired, they finally managed to explain them what cryptocurrency really is. I don't know. But the result is obvious. These guys are wavering, not in their position, but in their phraseology, which is good for me. Because it's kind of create this time for all of us to strengthen our presence in the Bitcoin, maybe make a couple of ICOs, I don't know, whatever you guys want to do until it is not too late. Because when these guys makes their mind, it's not going to be good. So that's my opinion. Of course, I'm a pessimistic, so I think that the legislation won't do any good to cryptocurrencies at all. So what do you think?
It's a tough one. This whole topic with Ethereum, I mean, it's gone over the last couple of years on, hey, was this a security? And if you applied that, but nobody was talking about the Howey test much when Ethereum was doing their sale. So that was like a term. That was a term that like hit Reddit and the internet later, you know, months afterwards, and people were like, "Oh, Howey test this and that." You know, I would say probably 99% of the people that talk about Howey test learned about it in 2017.
Can you explain the Howey test for the listeners?
Oh gosh, man, it would be its own thing. There was a guy in Florida. He had these oranges. Okay, he had an orange farm, and he had these people come in and like, hey, we can do this. His name was Howey. This is gonna be a terrible bit, Chris. This is a terrible question, man.
Oh, my bad.
That's a good question.
It's a good question. But if you want to know more about that, we do have a cool video where Anki Kwan explains it. She's a securities lawyer and does blockchain stuff, and a friend of ours, friend of the den, and she explains the Howey test very well over one of our series videos. But taking 20 minutes to go through that. But there's some principles of the Howey test that people can check. One of them is common enterprise, which is one that is very easy to understand. That is, you know, if you plan to make money off somebody else's work, and if that somebody else's work happens to be a common enterprise, you know, we've got some issues there. You know, that's probably a security. So if a company releases a token, it's probably a security. Whereas like Bitcoin in particular, you know, it's definitely not a security because it was a project. It's completely decentralized. It's open source. You know, white paper came out. They released the code. Anybody can partake in this. You know, It's not tying back to a company. But, you know, you got JP Morgan tokens. That ties directly back to a company, which is a common enterprise that has interest in making money off of their product. So Ethereum is kind of in that weird gray area because they had corporate sponsors and things that were putting on the ICO with Ethereum. So that's what makes it really interesting to talk about when it comes to securities. Is it or isn't? In my take, I think that their sale was probably a security when they sold it. I don't think too many people would disagree with that. Yeah. But where it's at now, you know, they've got this foundation that oversees things. They're a nonprofit. It's not like they're a company out to make money off of this. Yeah. But they are there to make sure that the project succeeds. So, I mean, where's the divide?
Yeah, it looks like Clayton's response. And you're right, it's worded in a very nuanced way, where he's basically saying a similar thing. It's like, I agree with Hinman's initial thought, or his thought process, that these securities, or at least Ethereum, in the case of Ethereum, that the determination between security and being like it's just a currency is fluid. It very well you can't just fit a round peg into a square hole. I think is the general thing that he was saying, which allows him to then when they do more research or they learn more or they've come down to a more focused decision, then they can go back and say, at this point, this is exactly what it is based on this strict guidelines of rules. At this point, it's switched over to where we now say, okay, this is no longer a security. So, yeah.
Well, probably we can comment on that because I actually probably one person amongst us three who actually read that Hinman speech. So he actually made very interesting comparison between price of Ethereum and the price of the home. He said that home, he can be security at the same when you start to sell that home. So if, for example, you want to collateralize or securitize your home, so issue some kind of security which link to the price of your home and try to sell it with a profit. At that particular moment of time, your home became a security. That's actually where that comparison came into the play, because he's saying that the initial time when the first time when Ethereum started to sell itself as the security to the public in order to raise the capital, it used to be security. But now when it actually traded as assets, as a home, it is not launched as security, which is from my point of view is ridiculous, because there is another definition in Hague test which says that you cannot profit from the rise of the in the value, which we all obviously do, right? So that's exactly where all of these arguments come to the dead end, because that's a law who was written in 1915. And at that time, there were simply none of such assets who can appreciate and depreciate like 20, 30, 50% in 5 minutes. They simply were not even the instruments to measure that depreciation or appreciation, because at that time also all trading was done on the floor. It was a trader physically raising their hands, and how much time you need to raise a hand is basically not several, like a second, like, you understand, right? And even agreeing on a price, it will take probably an hour on a trading floor. I mean, on a trading floor on the ancient stock exchange. And that law was written for that. And now we try to apply that law to the new electronic age. It's like not even on the electronic age, but the electronic age on top of the electronic age, right?
Trading bots who make the trades for you at pinpoint.
And that's where all of this crashes. I don't know. Maybe I don't understand something. But I don't really believe that there is some old man so wise they can issue legislation for centuries. I don't really think so. Of course, it's a little bit, there is a constitution and everything, but I'm not talking about constitution. I'm talking about more
very
technical
specific, technical
right?
little things that have a big impact in the the grand scheme of things. It's definitely it makes a lot of sense to think about technical legislation. I guess we could consider this technical legislation. I think that's what they're butting up against. That's why they're being so nuanced with their descriptions. Is they have to figure this out.
That's a good point. That's exactly what I'm saying. Why accept that like a positive development? Because now they start to think and they start to issue comments which reflects their thought process, which in 2018 was not the case. They simply blamed us for all the evil in the world, like everything. Now it's different. That's good.
So I see that as another positive development.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
Okay, let's hit the next final topic of the day. And so we're finishing off with more legislation now. So this one, we're talking about a specific bill that was introduced into the House of Representatives at the end of last year. It looks like to be one of the first bills that is trying to actually put, to describe what a token is as far as blockchain is concerned. So this is called the Token Taxonomy Act of 2018, was introduced by Representatives Warren Davidson and Darren Soto, and it defines a digital token as after consensus is reached, cannot be materially altered by a single person or group of persons under common control. So just based off of that, it's already throwing some red flags out as far as what I know about how tokens, smart contracts, Ethereum, and how all of this works. So I think the best way to go through this one is we have the line items of how they're defining a digital token. And then we can break down all the potential flaws with each of these as we go.
Okay.
All right. So in this bill, a digital token means a digital unit that A, is created. Yeah, you can't really pick any holes in that. But there's 3 points within. So it's created in response to the verification or collection of proposed transactions. That sounds about so far so good. 2 is pursuant to rules for the digital unit's creation and supply that cannot be altered by a single person or group of persons under common control. Red flags. Where's the red flag button?
I'm hoping that this is just like a framework that he's working on, trying to drill these topics down.
Me too.
And not this isn't the final project or final bill. Hopefully,
it says it's introduced.
Svet will tell us here in a second
That's
because he's read the whole thing, and this is exactly it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a really. And token is so hard to put into a bucket, and define, and they're attempting. So I give them points for attempting it, but contracts don't work like that. Hacking of people's chains doesn't work like that. Consensus is something that is always a struggle and a fight for that happens each round with each block that gets added to a public chain. Consistently. It's not at creation. It's not like we've got consensus. For a second or a millisecond once the next block is put in, and then you don't have consensus until the next one comes down. So that's a really terrible gauge on if something is working.
So what would be a situation where you immediately break that? That still seems like it
51% attack held by one person. There, ruins a whole chain. It's no longer a token now because one person hacked it.
So now everyone who lost money owes tax. It's like what? That could be it.
Even not so dramatic because it says it cannot be altered, right? It means that, for example, if you deleted the contract, you altered it, right?
Yeah. Right.
Any contract in any blockchain, Ethereum, whatever, can be deleted, right? That's
if it's written in a way that it can be,
by definition, that type of bill does not include any contract tokens, right?
Yeah, which are the most prolific ones today, right?
Absolutely.
So that's item 2 of the first section.
And we've had digital tokens before this, and we've had digital software tokens, not just cryptocurrency.
I just got that idea. Even if they talk about because they name it digital token, because everybody there is coins and there is tokens. That's 2 different things, right? But they name it token, and already token. Token, it's representation of something. Yeah. So it's not blockchain. So token usually associated with contracts, right? Smart contracts. So it's already contradiction in the terminology in this bill. But second, even if they mean by token what we mean coins, so something which have a blockchain, it doesn't require smart contract to exist, then we still have the same problem. What about Lightning? So in Lightning, you create and you define what type of car. You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. You create a channel. Yeah. You put the deposit.
You control it.
You control it. You create it. You completely contradict. So it means like, we have a blockchain, which Bitcoin, which fits this bill, but Lightning doesn't fit this bill. How can you explain?
And that's just one technology that's still coming out.
We just don't even touch the surface. What about forks? Yeah. What about guys? I don't know.
What about the new tech we have 15 years from now?
My goodness!
And after we just tear this apart, I will give them credit that obviously there's a huge mountain that they have to climb in order to find like one sweeping definition for a token, a digital token that applies to everything, that everyone's happy with, that makes stuff work.
Here's the point. Here's the point what I think we need to make, because guys, to make a definition of technologies, you have to have an education in technologies, right?
A deep understanding.
I don't know how many PhDs, like a CS PhDs, or people with like 10 years of experience with Bitcoin try to define for us here. Have they been successful? We're struggling with this.
And how many of those?
Everybody has different definitions.
But on the flip side, you can't regulate until you've defined it, and they're having a hard time defining it. So
that's not our problem.
That's not my problem. Exactly.
And how many PhDs, PhDs who could create a token are very active in politics? That's the other question.
That even want to be?
It might be like far ends of the earth at this point. So
I don't think too many, but
I'm sure there's some.
But even if they need some kind of definition of whatever blockchain token coins, let's take some consultation with community. Let's make.
Yeah.
We're talking about decentralization. We're talking about democracy. Put it on the website. Ask people questions. Organize some public debate.
Yep.
Take a time. You introduce bill right in the middle of 2019. Right in the middle of the bear market when nobody cares about that.
No one's going to see that.
What are you doing? What are you thinking? Of course, I understand why they're doing that, right? They're against this lobbyist firm
who contributed to them.
Yes.
Someone sponsored
they got to earn their money worth, whatever they're working. And that's good, right? Like, generally speaking, it's good. They're doing something. At least it's not so stupid as Security and Exchange Commission doing. From my point of view, it's like a low, there's degrees of stupidity. That one is not qualified at the highest level. Maybe I'm not politically correct but that's how I see it.
Okay. So
you started, I finished.
So let's see if there's anything else in here that kind of stands out. So B, it's defined. A digital token means a digital unit that's has a transaction history that is recorded in a distributed digital ledger or digital data structure in which consensus is achieved through mathematically verifiable processes. The face value, that sounds like it covers most of what we're dealing with right now. In the future, there could be all kinds of different.
What does a digital unit stand for?
They got to define that for the entire definition.
Yes, so now we have to define digital unit. There is a unit of account, right? But
I'll give them that one because they already have enough of a difficult task right here.
Digital tokens can represent state too. So
that's what I'm saying. Right?
It could not even be representative of anything financial, just an off-on, So. Whatever.
What about side chains? So what about states on the side chain?
Yeah, next point.
Okay, so then they have after consensus is reached, cannot be materially altered by a single person or a group of persons under common control. We know that exists everywhere. If I create a contract and I put myself as the owner of the contract, I can make a function that says I can transfer the ownership to any other account in the entire network. How does that?
and your contract is only tracking on and off lights at somebody's house that has a token, and you want to give it to Svet. It's clearly a digital token.
Yeah.
But not under this. Not under this definition.
What about you issue, say, like 100 coins, but in circulation only 5 of them, and you have a fund, and then you increase the circulation depending on the inflation rate, and your 100, like a 95 coins is not basically the currency in circulation, so physically does not exist. Yeah. So what about that one? You changing back and forth. Well, it's not probably the best type of contract we can think about that. What about oracles? What about some contracts which are linked to the oracles?
Yeah.
Guys, come on. Just take a book. I can recommend you a couple. Just read it first and then make yourself busy rewriting this one. Okay, next one. You want to comment something?
No. I mean, it's
There's only 2 more points.
Okay.
So this unit is capable of being traded or transferred between persons without an intermediate custodian. So cutting out the middleman, I guess. we'll let that one stand, and then.
I mean, isn't kind of that's the whole point of blockchain is that anybody can send anybody anything they want.
It's
buy whatever they want.
Maybe that's the one general point that they leave.
Yeah, we can leave it.
But how is that different from? We were only picking apart tokens here, but I'm wondering how that's different from the other 2 things that they were trying to classify.
So that's definition of not definition, because there is no definition here, because it says it can be traded through custody or cannot. Everything can be traded through custody or cannot trade. Because if you trade, you can create a coin with a custody, right? It doesn't make it non-coin. Or I can create a coin without the custody, which is still coin, right?
Yeah.
So they can easily get rid of that. No definition at all, but it's not awful, right? It's not like
it's something.
Next one, yes.
So the final one is not a representation of a financial interest in a company, including an ownership or debt interest or revenue share. So this is where they're trying to define between the token and digital security.
And security.
Yes.
So,
and I'm not against that statement. That statement seems like they've put some thought into that.
I
think it's a stronger point than the other ones.
Yeah, I think it does make sense, right? Because it's so basically they're saying it's not a security, it's a token. But again, it's kind of
is there
back?
Is there a gray area where what we would consider to be a token could still fit that definition?
I think it it's a recursive argument now, because it's not recursive. It's more like important statement which they have to make. So we cannot conclude anything from that except that it's not security. So token cannot be security. That's what they're saying.
That we can all agree on, right?
So I'm saying, but without the really defining what token is, it means nothing. That's my point. So it's kind of
so here's what it can't be.
Maybe that's a better way to start.
Yeah, that's the best way. Yes, it's what it cannot be, rather what it is. Yes.
So in conclusion, I think if we were to send a recommendation to the Token Taxonomy Act of people, what would be the recommendation? Go learn some more. Go do some more research. Consult with some people who believe that what they're creating is not a security. Consult with some people who know that they're creating securities.
It's actually a very good question, because it's when you're playing poker and you have already some stack of chips, you take it from the board.
Stake, right?
You take it and go. Do we have to? It's a good question. Do we have to live with at least that one? So what do you do if you're going to be the person to decide whether you take that law and says, okay, no law, go do some better job, or you just vote for that one? Say you are a representative from the California state. I give you 10 votes. So where you put your 10? So you're a group leader, like small factions.
I would be telling these guys to go back to the drawing board.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it sounds like they're building out more of a framework than I would hope. But as you said, it's not just a framework here, but it sounds more like a framework where they need some more exploratory information to get this right.
That's what they do have. They have some of the buzzwords. Consensus. Okay, they have some amount of knowledge about consensus. Digital ledger, so yeah, I agree. They need to go back to the drawing board. There are too many new ideas and things that are gonna basically come into this, what they're trying to create, and just not make sense at all and cause more issues as opposed to less. And there's going to have to be...
Then we're stuck with 1915, 1920, 1930s SEC laws.
Yeah, and just addendum after addendum of, unless this, unless that. Like, or they just say, screw it, we're not going to change anything, which is obviously what we don't want to happen. So, yeah.
Well, here's my opinion about that. I was even close to say yes, I will vote for that. But
No.
at least we have something. I think we have to give credit after what we said to those guys, because just remember what we got in 2017.
Yeah.
In 2017, we all were the nest of molesters and terrorists and whatever. We are at that.
We're all
here
on the
we've
Silk
got
Road,
a law,
just
guys. We already have a law. That's such a huge step forward in 1 year. Just maybe even amazing. And of course, we have to give that credit to those senators, couple of them who take that. It's actually very courageous step, I think. I don't know, well-paid, courageous step, whatever.
And I also have respect because this is a bipartisan effort. Warren Davidson is a Republican and Darren Soto is Democrat.
Well, it's usual politics. They usually kind of take any bill and two senators. We don't really know.
We don't know what both parties, the party's opinions on this are.
Exactly,
They don't know what's going on. So.
None of the party, have you heard party leaders talking about? Never, right? So they care about some more important stuff. So,
it's definitely like bottom of the barrel issue right now.
Maybe not even there. But I'm giving the credit for those guys, and I think I agree with you. I think that they have to take that back to the drawing board. So they have to, it was good effort. You learned something about Bitcoin. Congratulations, guys. Now go back and learn something about Ethereum. Yeah. After learning about something, talk we have already
Hyperledger, learn about,
everything.
Like difference between centralized, decentralized, like the sign chain, off chains, all of these kind of.
Permissionless.
Yes.
It almost sounds like.
Keep learning.
Here would be, actually, this would be my recommendation in my limited knowledge of politics. Create a blockchain DLT committee of everyone, like bipartisan, the works, a group of people whose sole focus outside of their main objectives is to learn as much as possible, talk to these, to the lobbyists, and be that group of super informed politicians on these issues. I think that would be the only way that we get any kind of positive regulation is coming out in a timely manner because of how quickly everything is changing and updating anyways.
Well, I wouldn't be so optimistic. It was based on my experience working with politicians, usually that's exactly the first thing they do. The first thing they do, they form committees, subcommittees, because it employs them, right? Yeah. So it gives them more power, more money to spend on their secretaries or whatever. So I think they already have some kind of subcommittee about digital something. So it won't push. It won't give us any way forward. What we really need some kind of the constituency starting to lettering there or send letters to their senators, some kind of big voters starting to
a political movement,
pay attention to that, right? So when people start talk to their congressmen about that, when people start sending more letters to them, that's when it probably come to difference. You think so? Or you
overall, I mean, I think all these topics today kind of have the same thing in common, which is securities. It all comes around talking about securities, and if tokens are securities, and are they not? And
no one knows.
We've all been looking to the SEC to get some answers on what they say. They say, oh, we've got the Howey test, right? If it was clear, and if people weren't trying to bend those rules to fit whatever their agenda is, would these people need to be have this conversation? I think not.
I probably will disagree with you because it's not only about securities. Don't forget that blockchain is an industry and it creates jobs.
Yeah,
what is more important for politicians than to create the jobs? So it's kind of two sides now. Yes, from one point of view, we have that limitation, whether security, not security. From the other point of view, we have more people employed. We have more talented, smart people finding their new job opportunities. Plus, think that about blockchain creates a possibility for other industries to kind of spread their legs all around other industries, making industries interconnected, which also create jobs. So I don't think it's only a question about the security. It's a question about whether blockchain will be new and very important.
Like economic driving factor.
Exactly. Economic driving factor, and then generating more taxes.
Yeah. At the end of the day. I think that's a good way to close out. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. We are right into the tax season, so let's end with taxes.
15th is coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes, people.
Good luck. All right. Yeah. So this has been State of the Industry. I really appreciate everyone, listening in. Definitely subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Click that button down below. If you're listening on Anchor or Spotify or iTunes, definitely follow the podcast. We put these out every week. We have a bunch of exciting guests that we're lining up to talk to in the next few weeks. We have people, blockchain developers. We have some people who are in the regulatory space. And we're going to be diving a little deeper into, exactly what work they're doing and give you a more accurate picture of what is happening in the space today, right now. And so you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at Denexus, DENNEXUS. Join our Twitter or our Telegram at Denexus as well, t.me/Denexus. And Svet?
Yeah, thank you for your passion. Thank you for specifically passion with my accent, which you will really have a difficult time to understand, but that's how we talk on that channel. I'm sorry. So we have international representation here as well, not only American point of view. So, I'm Svet. You can subscribe to my Telegram channel, Ask Svet About the Crypto, where where you cannot hear my accent because I'm writing there. So you're going to be free from this torture. But anyway, so see you next time. So,
and I just got a plug for the Den this week. No, the Den. I mean, we've got some exciting things coming up here next month, man. Guys are going to be in China teaching classes, doing all sorts of wild things over there.
So we're gonna be in China, I believe April 12th, April 9th. We're gonna be at a large conference. We're going out with our partners IntelliShare, who we love working with constantly. They're bringing us over. That's going to be a lot of fun. Our UC Irvine classes, they start May 6th, I believe. So that's blockchain for business leaders, Ethereum engineering masterclass, and we're bringing our Hyperledger class down to UCI as well. So if you're in the SoCal area and you're looking to get some more, get really educated on all this stuff so you are not in the same situation as these legislators, that is the way to do it. Connect with us on theden.io. That's our website. You'll find all the information there. And our lecture series, this every Wednesday. Be prepared. It's going to be a good one. I forget what the topic is, but it's on our website as well. So with that, it was a long outro, but we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thank you.